Hey guys, this is Jeff Stanek with Figured Out Baseball. Got a really good Figured Out Baseball podcast today in our series that we call the Real Dirt Podcasts, where we get our hands dirty in one particular topic, a topic that will interest maybe a very specific type of audience, but with that audience and with this topic, we want to kind of uncover everything we can in that topic. And today we're lucky enough to be joined by Marc Marizzaldi. He's the head coach at Seton Hill University, a Division II school in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Just a tremendously successful Division II program that was once an NAIA program when it began. I don't know if we'll get into that today or not, but Coach Maz started the program. He's been with the team since the very beginning. I believe he's got 17 seasons under his belt at Seton Hill. He's got a career record at Seton Hill of 610 wins and 316 losses. Just absolutely incredible. Their 2021 season, they're coming off a season where they went 39-8 overall and advanced to the NCAA Division II World Series. Just a program that has been successful almost from the very beginning. And what I want to talk about today, the topic we're getting into today in this Real Dirt podcast, is the Division II experience. And I think this is an important topic to cover because so many student athletes out there, as they're coming up through high school, it's D1 or bust, D1 or bust, D1 or bust, and they feel like they're settling if they go to any other level. And I don't think that enough kids open themselves up to the experience that they're going to have. And some Division I experiences are great, some aren't very good. What we're here to talk about today is outside of that. At Division II, what is the Division II experience like? And I just kind of want to open that up to people so that hopefully kids that are listening to this, families listening to this, can make a great decision in the recruiting process based on some actual factual information that we're going to give them today. So Coach Maz, I appreciate you being on the podcast today. I'm looking forward to getting into this one with you.
Wow, thank you for that introduction, Jeff. I feel like I finally have made it, making the list of Figure It Out Baseball podcasts. I have to start this by saying thank you to you, not just for the opportunity to be here and talk to you today, but for giving me a chance to get in on the ground level with Figure It Out Baseball. I know our coaching staff was a few of the first guys that you invited to do some videos for FIO. We were very excited and kind of privileged to do that right from the beginning, the grassroots of this whole initiative. The fact that you have this platform for free now is just absolutely fantastic. So I was glad to have some videos up there, and now I've finally graduated up to the podcast level, and I'm really excited to talk to you today.
It's the big time, man. Yeah, if you haven't checked out Coach Maz's videos, I believe there are 4 coaches right now from Seton Hill who have video on the website. And they cover a little bit of everything. I certainly would encourage you to watch those videos. Our videos are available on the website, the Figured Out Baseball website, obviously, and also on YouTube. Our podcasts you can find on a bunch of different platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more, in addition to the website. So I hope you'll check those out if you haven't before. But Coach Maz, to get into this at the very beginning, talking about the D2 experience, you obviously just came off a phenomenal season, finishing 39-8, advancing to the College World Series, the Division II College World Series. And you had a really big senior class last year. And I'm assuming, I don't know this, but I'm assuming that you do exit meetings with your guys. Can you tell us a little bit, just to begin to scratch the surface of what the experience is like? Can you talk about maybe some of the individual conversations you had with players who finished their careers last year, had so much success with you guys, obviously went through the 2020 COVID season, but then culminated last year with, going to the World Series, which is no small feat. I don't care what level you're at. Can you kind of talk about some of the exit meetings, and maybe if 1 or 2 in particular stand out to you, like any guys that just maybe in their exit meeting sort of summarize what the Division II experience, what the Seton Hill experience was for them and for a lot of players that you have in your program?
Yeah, I think to understand and appreciate the Division II experience, at least here at Seton Hill, and how we try to provide that for our student athletes, you have to kind of know where we've come from. My own personal background, I have literally been at every level of collegiate baseball. Played Division I at Duquesne, like you did. And after that, I had an opportunity to be a pitching coach at a Division III school for 2 years, and then moved on here to Seton Hill. And when we started the program, you mentioned we were NAIA. for 3 years, and then we transitioned to Division II in the year 2008. So as a player, as an assistant coach at the Division I level, as an assistant at the Division III, and as a head coach at NAIA Division II, I feel like I have a very well-rounded appreciation for each level of collegiate baseball, and of course they all have their differences and some similarities too. So what we're trying to provide here for our players at Seton Hill is, in fact, a Division I experience. We try to explain it to them that you will have a Division I experience in terms of the things that we can control, but we just happen to play in a Division II conference. And a lot of that just comes from my own personal background as a player. And before I took the job here at Seton Hill, I was the assistant coach at Duquesne. So I kind of just really only knew how to operate things at the highest level of collegiate baseball, and that's what we're trying to do here at Seton Hill. Of course, the differences for us from Division I would be scholarships and maybe facilities and, some of those little higher level things. But again, the things that we can control and, the resources and investments that we put into our athletes personally is as good as you'll find at any institution at any level. So you mentioned about the exit meetings that we had with our players at the end of last year. To kind of, I guess, build upon us trying to provide a Division I experience, 3 of our seniors that graduated last year had, they all had a 5th year to play because of COVID. Our center fielder is now playing at Liberty. Our number 1 pitcher is going to be in the rotation at Rutgers. And one of our top bullpen guys is going to be a top reliever at Radford. So, I think it goes without saying, seeing how our guys have moved on from here to as grad transfers at other schools, they're playing at a high level, and they're going to be impactful at that Division I level. 2 years ago, in 2020, the year of COVID, one of our starting pitchers, Pat Monteverdi, another kid who had finished his degree here and had a 5th year, he moved on and ended up being the top arm at Texas Tech and was an 8th round pick. So I feel very confident, conveying to recruits like we are providing a Division I experience here for our players. We are developing them at the same level, if not maybe higher than some Division I programs. We are just subject to playing the opponents that are on our schedule, and they're Division II opponents. So our exit meetings, I think, are a little bit different with our seniors, actually. When our season is over, I sit down with our entire graduating senior group as a group. We go out to dinner, spend a few hours together, and it's really the opposite of what all of their meetings have been during their career. Most of those individual meetings that we do with our players throughout their career is a lot of feedback, trying to guide them, trying to encourage them, point out strengths and weaknesses, trying to help them map out a plan for daily improvement, talk to them about, how their classes are going, personal life, all those things that are really valuable in a conversation one-on-one with their players. But as our seniors graduate, it's the opposite. I like to turn the tables and give them the floor to give us a lot of feedback, tell us what they liked, what they didn't like during their experience 4 years here at Seton Hill. And it's incredible how invested they are. Those meetings with our seniors at the end of their career, they say, "Coach, I want to see this guy succeed," or "I want to see the program, go a little bit further next year." And even now, now that those seniors have moved on, I hear from those guys all the time. They're always saying, "Hey, how's fall ball going? How's this guy doing?" And that's just so gratifying to hear as a coach, that those kids are invested well beyond their 4 years here. We have an incredible alumni base. One of the things that makes me more proud than the wins and losses is our alumni weekend every year. I had 75 alumni at my house the last weekend in September for a get-together, and that was the night before our golf outing, which had 120 golfers at it. So I think when you talk about the Division II experience, when you see how invested your alumni are after they leave here, that tells you how much they valued and appreciated their experience while they were here. And to me, that's the feedback that I'm looking for. How connected to the program and how interested are our alumni after they leave here. That just tells you they were fully invested while they're here, and they're going to continue to be invested after they leave.
I love the idea of that exit meeting, and that's why I wanted to ask you about that. We hadn't talked about that before, but I think that the exit meetings when guys graduate are typically a little bit different, and I was interested to hear kind of how they went for you, and I think one of the reasons I wanted to ask you that is because I believe that at the end of their experience at Seton Hill, these guys, it's totally the opposite of before they came. When and I say that like, when guys are coming out of high school, they're thinking to themselves, they're 15, 16, like D1, then they end up at Seton Hill and they have a great experience. And at the end of it, they're not like, man, I really regret coming here. It's just the opposite. Like, wow, I had a really great experience. Like, I loved every minute of this. Being on a winning team with this kind of success, it was great. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I'm sure that there's a lot of that happening at the exit meetings. And that's kind of why I wanted to ask about those a little bit. You mentioned.
I think there's two things, if I can jump in real quick, Jeff. Like, one of the things we try to address in the recruiting process is full transparency. Like, when a kid comes to visit Seton Hill, we are going to lay out every single detail of what his experience is going to be from the day he steps on campus till the day he graduates. We go into full detail as far as the academics, what our daily development plan is based on what position he plays, our weight training program, our nutrition program. It is fully laid out. And I feel obligated to do that as a coach. When you look at the transfer portal and what that has become, it's insane, that how much transferring is going on. And that's a tough thing for an 18, 20-year-old kid. The biggest decision of their lives, and we see this on social media, is picking their college. So when they make that choice and realize, a couple of months or a year into that college experience that it was the wrong choice because things aren't what they thought they would be, that's just unfortunate, for a college student athlete. And a lot of times that happens because maybe they made a hasty decision, or maybe they didn't have all the information they needed to know exactly how that experience was going to be at that school. So when a kid comes to visit, we will be full disclosure, full transparency. This is exactly what your experience is going to be like here. If the recruit, loves it, thinks it's a match, great. If a recruit hears some things and it's just not a match and they're not interested, that's a great thing too, because now that kid knows, Seton Hill's not a good fit, and that's okay. I would rather that happen than a kid come here for a year and say, wow, coach, this isn't really what you told me it would be. So we avoid that at all costs for our benefit and also for the benefit of the recruit. The second part of it too, this is just a value that we have here at Seton Hill. We want their experience here to be transformational as opposed to transactional. I think a transformational experience to come into play college baseball for years is a little bit holistic, right? It's not about just, hey, we're going to try to get you drafted. It's about, we're going to develop you mentally. We're going to be very invested in how you do academically. We are going to be very invested in, having your 4 years here lead to a good job and a good career. We want to help with that. We want to get out in the community. We want to expand your exposure to diverse cultures. We want kids to be transformed in some way after their time here at Seton Hill. There's some recruits that are not really interested in that. They're looking for more of a transactional, and that's totally okay. Like, they don't care about all of those exterior things. They just want to come in and, what can I get out of this experience? Can I get some scholarship money? Am I going to have a chance to play? They're just interested in that transaction. What can they get out of it? And again, that's not right or wrong. Every kid is a little bit different what they're looking for. But that is one thing I think that we are able to provide here at Seton Hill, and I think a lot of smaller colleges, Division II and Division III, are really focused on that transformational experience. The whole list, giving them an experience beyond just what happens between the lines on the baseball field.
Love that. And with the transfer portal being as full as it is, it's very apparent that there are a lot of unhappy kids after a year or two. And that can be for a lot of reasons. It's not like those programs aren't doing their job, but a lot of times a guy goes in and doesn't see an opportunity to start there in a year or two, and that's a really important thing for him. He wants to go somewhere else, and sometimes you can understand that. So I'm going to kind of stay on that for a minute. Do you end up with a lot of guys transferring out of the program? I know you have some 4-year guys transferring from other 4-year schools into your program. Can I ask that? Is that a fair question to ask? Is how many guys you've had transfer out of Seton Hill, or maybe just how many you average per year for your roster?
Yeah, most certainly, and I think that's a question that recruits and parents often ask. Is what is the retention rate? Now, for us here at Seton Hill, it is a little bit more challenging because we have a large roster. As an enrollment-driven school, we're encouraged to carry a roster of about 50 players. We also provide some additional opportunities through a lot of JV games. So with a bigger roster, it's a little bit tougher, but we've lost 4 players from our roster in the last 4 years. 2 of them were older players that were kind of behind some other kids that were ahead of them. They were looking for better opportunities playing time-wise late in their career. Unfortunately, we had another player leave because of financial reasons related to COVID. And we had another player transfer 2 years ago because he changed his major to something that we didn't offer. So I think losing 4 players in 4 years for a roster our size is pretty fantastic. And again, sometimes when a kid comes to college over the course of 4 years, everything changes for those kids. Maybe their career goals, their family financial situation, what's important to them. Sometimes I think for us here at Seton Hill, one of the challenges we have is kids are attracted to our school and our baseball program because, quite frankly, we've been very successful, and that obviously attracts kids. But I think once they get here, not just here at Seton Hill, but any college team, they realize how incredibly competitive it is just to get on the field. And maybe they realize, they were attracted to the success of the program, but it wasn't quite the right level for them to have the best opportunity to play. So, but no, again, I think our retention being as high as it is because of what we invest in the kids' experience every day on our campus.
Those numbers are unbelievable. It doesn't matter what level you're at. Like that's one of the best retention rates that you'll find, because just sometimes kids are just naturally, it's not going to be a fit for one reason or another, and just things aren't going to work out. But those are really incredible numbers. Let's just stick on transfers for another minute. You've had 4-year other guys that have transferred from 4-year schools into your program, guys that were at Division I programs that came into Division II, and not even just to keep, pumping Seton Hill, but can you just talk a little bit about, what experience was like for that guy? I'm sure there's for players that go down a level, that if you can say that, if they transfer, from a Division I to a Division II, there's probably a bit of humility there. I would imagine there's maybe even a little bit of, just a guy really having to check his ego. But when it's done, when their career is over and they're leaving, can you kind of talk maybe specifically about some guys that you've had, and maybe any conversations you've had with a guy that said, this was kind of my experience, going from a Division I school to Seton Hill, and whether or not it was, I guess, as much of a step down as maybe mentally they thought it was going to be, or if it was, something else. Do you have any of those conversations with guys that you can recall, Mass?
Yeah, most certainly. That's, for us, obviously we're trying to recruit a Division I caliber player, somebody who projects with that skill set. We had two guys that came into our program in the last 2 years from Power 5 programs. And they're coming, from a school with 35,000 people and a 10,000 seat stadium to our campus that has 1,800 kids. So that is without a doubt the most concerning thing. The biggest thing we have to be concerned with as coaches is, what is that transition going to be like for that player? Are they walking in here with a little bit too high of expectations? Is it kind of like coming in with that maybe egotistical Division I mentality? and we just have to be really careful. Again, the portal's enormous. There's so many kids out there that Division I talent is very attractive for Division II teams, but they absolutely have to be the right fit for us. And I think being just straightforward and truthful with those players that are coming from the Division I level down to Division II, just being, letting them know, like, we're not recruiting you to come in here and start. Like, you have to earn it here, just like you had to earn it at the school you were coming from. We were very lucky. We got the right kids. They were not only humbled, at the Division I level, but they were extremely grateful to have an opportunity at another place. And that was here at Seton Hill. We had another fantastic kid transfer in from the Ivy League. And consequently, without saying a name, he was the PSAC Player of the Year. So he was a great pickup for us. And two of the kids that I had mentioned that are now playing at Division I schools as grad transfers, they were both Division I transfers in here. So I feel like, well, I don't feel like it, but the proof is kind of in the numbers. We were able to revitalize those kids' careers. They had the talent to be at Division I schools out of high school. It just wasn't the right situation for them. And here at Seton Hill, perhaps maybe they got a little bit more individual attention. Maybe they got the confidence boost that they needed. Maybe they were competing at the right level for them at that time in their career. But all of the Division I transfers that we have brought in the last couple of years have absolutely flourished. So I think, maybe it's a cultural change, just being at a smaller school. They have a little bit more confidence, but it's worked out great for us. Some people might think that that's our niche now, and I'll tell you it is not. Again, like, these kids have to be the right fit for us. A lot of the Division I kickbacks that we do get here at Seton Hill are kids that we recruited out of high school. So there was an existing relationship with them. We left the door open when they chose to go to another school. And fortunately, some of those kids have come back here and had great careers for us.
I've got to ask a little bit about the coaching and development side of things. It's something that you mentioned, and it's something that I want to talk about. And regardless of take other levels out of the conversation altogether, your experience, the PSAC, the Pennsylvania Division II Conference, is one of the best Division II conferences in the country. And let's just go even conference wide. How good do you think development is at the Division II level? And again, just kind of sticking to the Division II experience. Do you find you have some Division I experience? You have experience at Division III, obviously at NAIA as a head coach there. What is the just kind of across the board the development side of things look like at Division II? And the experience that guys have, they come in looking like something and they go out looking like something else. What does the development piece look like from your experience at the Division II level that you're familiar with?
Well, I'll tell you, Jeff, I think there's a wide range when it comes to development at the Division II level, and I think that wide range is pretty dependent upon resources. So what I mean by that, you mentioned the PSAC, 17 teams in our league. I think the talent in our league at the Division II level, but in particular in the PSAC, is extremely high. You do get a lot of Division I transfers coming into the PSAC. But I also think there's some schools in the PSAC that steal some Division I recruits out of high school. There's some kids that are playing in the PSAC that without a doubt could have been playing, at a higher level out of high school. So the talent overall in our league is extremely high. You've lived in the scouting world a little bit. If you speak to some of the regional scouts, they will tell you that the PSAC is as good a conference as any mid-major in this region. And I think when you look at the number of drafts that have come out of our league in the last 10 years, it'll tell that story in numbers. But when it comes to development, again, I think every team in our league gets some talented players, but there's some teams in the PSAC and in Division II that develop their players at a little bit better rate or faster pace than others. A lot of that has to do with whether or not those teams have invested in staffing. There's some teams in our league that have, 3 or 4 coaches on campus every day, 2 or 3 of them full time. And then there's some other teams in our league that have one full-time head coach and a volunteer or grad assistant. So it makes it hard for those teams to really develop their players at the same rate as another institution that has a full staff. And then, you find a wide range of funding. Some teams just don't have the money to invest in, technology, head tracks, Rapsodo, video, those types of things. Other teams do. Maybe other teams have a very strong alumni base that they're able to raise funds. I think another part of development too, and more so the Division II experience, is the schedule that you play. And again, when you look at teams in the PSAC, there's a very wide variety of good schedules versus maybe not so challenging schedules. That's one thing we've been committed to for as long as I've been here, is playing the toughest schedule that we can. This year, we're going to take another full week trip down to Florida, and we're playing at the University of Tampa and at Florida Southern back to back. We don't have to do that, and that's taking a big risk to go down there and get our butts kicked early in the season, but that's part of our experience. Those are without a doubt Division I caliber programs, Tampa and Florida Southern. So we want to play the best. We want to expose our guys to the highest level of Division II baseball, and that's the way to do it. So fortunately, we put a lot of time and effort into raising money to take those trips, to play the best teams, to give our kids the best experience. So, when you look at some of the talent that's coming out of the Division II level, I think, there's a handful of PSAC guys that are playing in the big leagues right now. And that's because I think they found themselves in programs where coaches were fully committed to developing them as people and as players. And that's pretty exciting for our league.
One last thing I want to ask you here, Coach Maz, before we run out of time, we're almost out of time, is about the Division II facilities. I think that's another thing that recruits care about a lot. And sometimes I think it's too much so, but other times, you want to know that you're going to play at a place where the playing surfaces are good, where you have the facilities to be able to get better, including a weight room. And if you're a hitter, you want a place that has the cages that you need to be able to get in the reps that you want, and maybe a machine that you can go hit off of or whatever. And I'm sure there's a wide variety here too, but can you kind of give us just a quick idea of what Division II facilities have looked like that you've been to, including your own, other schools in the conference, schools you've traveled to on the road, just to give people that maybe don't have really any idea what they'd be looking at facility-wise if they went to visit a handful of Division II schools?
Well, I'm sitting in our press box as we speak right now, Jeff. We have an absolutely just gorgeous facility. It's fantastic functionally. It allows us to do so many things from a practice and competition standpoint. But of course, I have a biased opinion, and I think we have the most picturesque, fan-friendly ballpark in the entire region. So we're very fortunate here at Seton Hill to have a full turf field. Probably 5 years ago, out of the 17 teams in the PSAC, 3 of them had turf. I think that number is up to about 11 or 12 now. 7 out of the 8 teams in the PSAC West have turf. So it's, as you see in Division I, at the highest level, it's an arms race, right, to see who can build the biggest and best facility. And I think you see Division II kind of taking that step as well. Everybody's going to turf now for baseball, and it's allowing, obviously, more games to be played, but just better development to happen on the field for all the teams. So I think Division II in general is a little bit behind Division I in terms of indoor facility development, but when it comes to outdoor baseball fields, it's been exciting to see a lot of teams in the North, and particularly in the PSAC, really invest in the turf, and it's just helping our game tremendously. So it's a little bit different down south, I think. I think the Southern schools in Division II have been well ahead of the Northern schools, not just in terms of, having good weather and playing a lot more, but in terms of facilities. When you go down in the Peach Belt, the Sunshine State Conference, there's some pretty outstanding facilities down there, both, for baseball and football. And even, you think about some basketball arenas, IUP and Cal, it's incredible, 6,000 seat arenas that are better than some mid-major Division I. So, Division II is just, you see continual investment in facilities, both indoor and outdoor, and it's been doing some great things for the sport of baseball.
I think what you said about the turf fields, it's a big deal, especially if you carry 50 guys. Natural surfaces are great, but when you have bigger rosters, which a lot of even Division I schools are at this point are bringing in 40 and 45 guys sometimes, and the surfaces just get torn up. So having turf, in addition to being able to play more games in the spring when the weather's going to be hit or miss, you get a little break from the rain for 3 hours and you can play a game. But also, obviously, on the development part, like you mentioned, it just allows you to do whatever you need to without tearing up the field, without worrying about what it's going to look like in the spring, or just losing grass because of what you're doing. So those are all really important points. This is, again, Marc Marizzaldi, everybody. He's the head coach at Seton Hill, an incredibly successful Division II program in Pennsylvania. We've been talking about the Division II experience, and I hope you got a pretty good feel for what a good quality, high quality Division II program, what that experience can be like for a player. And there were some things we didn't get to cover here. Maybe this is going to be part one of a 2-part series, even potentially. I'm sure there were some things that you hoped we get into that we didn't, but we do need to cut it off at this point. But Coach Maz, I appreciate you being here and sharing everything you did and just taking time out of your day. I know you guys have individual practice coming up after this, but taking time out of your morning to share all this information with Figured Out Baseball subscribers is really, really valuable. So we thank you for your time.
Jeff, it was absolutely my pleasure. Let's make this a 5-part series. How about that?
We could do it, man. As many times as you want to come on. As many times as I can get you away from the for the rest of the guys. Thanks, Coach Maz, and best of luck to you guys.
Thank you, Jeff.